My daughter turned 9 last Thursday. She was the kind of person who moved around the world with wide eyes, noticing things that adults passed by without paying attention. She had a habit of pausing at doorways to observe the room before entering, as if she wanted to fully understand it before going in. Other children would run ahead of her, but she would observe first. The one time my grandmother saw my daughter do that, she laughed softly and said, "She's a thinker." Well, that was a great compliment, and I held on to it like one holds onto something important. It was precisely that quality, that subtle, observable quietness, that led her to the back bedroom while the adults filled the noisier rooms with conversation. And it was that same quality that brought her back with a ring. We were at my parents' house for our annual Sunday lunch. It was the kind of gathering that once felt truly warm, but which, over the years, had gradually become more of an obligation than a pleasure. The food was always delicious. My mother was a skilled cook, and the table was set with the same care she always took, with good plates and a pressed tablecloth. But a certain silence hung over some members of that household, a silence that, over time, had solidified into more than just awkwardness. Dividing lines that everyone knew and avoided without question. I learned to arrive a little late and leave a little early to minimize those difficult moments. My daughter had attended enough of these gatherings to understand the rhythm of the house, which rooms were comfortable, which conversations to avoid, and where she was welcome to explore. She found the ring under the dresser in the back bedroom, half hidden behind a panel, covered in a thin layer of dust as if it had been there for ages unnoticed. She came back into the dining room, her hand open, her face beaming with joy at her unexpected discovery. "Mom, look what I found under the dresser." It was there, covered in dust. It was a gold ring, delicate and smooth, set with a small cluster of tiny pearls arranged symmetrically around its center. I knew it before she even finished speaking. My grandmother wore that ring every day of her adult life on the third finger of her right hand, until the arthritis in her joints made it painful to put it on and take it off. After that, the ring remained locked away in a small cedar jewelry box on her dresser, which smelled of old powder and a faint floral scent I could never quite identify, or so I thought. Seeing it on my daughter's open hand, its color slightly faded from all the time it had lain beneath that dresser, made my chest tighten. Some things hold memories. My daughter held her hand up to the light and said, "It's really beautiful." "Whose was it?" "It was your great-grandmother's ring," I said quietly. I took it and held it for a moment, feeling its weight, and I remembered exactly how my grandmother's hands looked wearing it. Strong, warm, and capable hands that had accomplished thousands of things I would never know, and some I would carry with me forever. At that moment, my sister Clara approached from the other side of the room. She was 3 years older than me and had always occupied a much larger space in our family than I did. Her opinions preceded her, and her preferences were presented as facts. She had a knack for making any other viewpoint seem like a mere lapse in judgment, a skill she had honed since childhood. She reached out and snatched the ring directly from my hand, as if I were picking up a glass someone had carelessly left on the table, as if the question of her right to it hadn't even crossed her mind. "Where did this come from?" she asked, turning the ring over and addressing the room instead of my daughter. "Under the dresser in the back bedroom," my daughter replied. Clara looked at the ring for another moment, then tightened her grip. "This is a family heirloom," she said with an air of certainty. "It belongs to the family." Then she turned to my daughter with a forced, albeit not entirely convincing, smile. "Family heirlooms are for real daughters, not for little girls who wander around picking things off other people's floors." A hush fell over the room, the kind of silence that descends when something is said that everyone has heard, but no one wants to admit. You become more attuned to the faint sounds, the hum of the refrigerator, the traffic outside, the creaking of someone's chair. My daughter looked at me. She was 9 years old, not naive. She understood the meaning of what had just happened, even if she couldn't find the right words to describe it. I watched her take it in. A slight tremor, followed by a cautious silence, her gaze down at her empty hands. I had seen the same expression on her face in the same house at similar moments, and seeing it on her face was something I hadn't prepared for. Suddenly, my mother found something to catch her eye by the stove. My father sipped his coffee. 2 of my aunts examined the tablecloth. My cousin gave a short, nervous laugh, which didn't come out and disappeared before it could develop. I looked at Clara, her hand tightly gripping my grandmother's ring, and made up my mind. "Come on," I said, putting my hand on my daughter's shoulder. "Let's get your jacket." We said our quick goodbyes and left for lunch before dessert. My daughter put on her jacket in the hallway without my asking, something she rarely did, and I understood that she wanted to leave that house as much as I did. In the car, she sat with her hands folded in her lap, watching the passers-by by the windows. She was processing things, thinking quietly, turning her thoughts over and over, just as she turned things over in her hands when she found them interesting. I didn't rush her. After several minutes, she asked, "What did she mean by real girls?" I told her she meant something unpleasant. It wasn't true. Was the ring really my great-grandmother's? Yes. Did my great-grandmother want it with you? I kept my eyes on the road ahead. I think she did, I said. I'll find out. That night, after my daughter had fallen asleep and the house was quiet, I went to my closet to get the cardboard box I'd kept at the back of the shelf since my grandmother's death 4 years earlier. She had passed away at the age of 87, fully conscious and aware until the very end, which was perfectly consistent with who she had been throughout her life. She believed in saying what she meant while she still could. In the weeks leading up to her death, she had been writing letters. Not to everyone, but only to the people she wanted to leave special words for. My letter arrived in a sealed envelope, my name written on it in her clear, steady handwriting. I opened it on the day of her funeral, sitting in my car before I could even get into the church, because I knew what was inside would break me, and I wanted that to happen in private. I read it once, cried over it, then carefully folded it into thirds and put it back in the envelope. Then I placed it in the box with her other belongings and left it there, because grief has its time, and I wasn't ready for it. I sat on the floor of the closet, took out the letter, and read it again. I read it all slowly from the beginning. She wrote in her usual simple and precise style, just as she spoke. No superfluous words, no emotion for its own sake. Everything in just the right measure, nothing more, nothing less. She wrote about her life, about the things she was proud of, about the people she loved, and about some things she wished had turned out differently. Near the end, she wrote about her possessions. She was a practical woman. She wanted her wishes documented somewhere, even if only in a letter. She wrote, "The pearl ring, you know it, that ring, the gold ring with the little pearl. I want it to be yours. It always reminded me of myself at your age. The way you observe things quietly before you speak. The way you love people wholeheartedly without pretense. Keep the ring for your daughter when she's old enough to appreciate it. She has the same keen eye. I noticed it the first time I saw her look at something intently. She sees what's important. She'll know what to do with it when the time comes." I read that paragraph 3 times. My phone lit up on the floor beside me. A message from Clara. "I hope you won't think about it. It's just a ring. You'd better not tell your daughter stories about it." I took a picture of that passage, perfectly clear, every word legible, and sent it to Clara without adding anything. It took her a while to reply. When she did, she wrote, "This proves nothing." I put the phone down and sat with the message for a while. Then I went to sleep. In the morning, I called my mother. I calmly told her what my grandmother had written and asked if she knew. There was a silence that was longer than necessary. "Perhaps she mentioned something like that," my mother said. "Did you know about it last night when you didn't say anything?" Another silence. "Your sister has a strong opinion about these things." "Mother," I said, "my daughter is 9 years old. She was told outright in front of the whole family that she's not considered a real daughter. And then you went back to the stove." My mother spoke in incomplete sentences and truncated phrases, the language of someone who knows she's misbehaved, but can't find the right words to admit it. I listened until she finished, then told her I needed some time and ended the call. That day, I contacted the estate lawyer who had been handling my grandmother's affairs. He was semi-retired but remembered her fondly. I explained the situation to him. He told me that a handwritten and signed letter expressing personal wishes, while not legally binding as an official addendum to a will, would serve as a clear document demonstrating what my grandmother would have wanted. He said it would be a valuable document in any discussion on the matter. He added that if Clara refused to return the ring, there were other options, and he offered to draft a written document for me if needed. I thanked him and told him I would start with the letter itself. That evening, I sent Clara an electronic copy of the entire letter, the whole document, not just a single paragraph with a line over it. My grandmother was very clear. "Please return the ring before the end of the week." She called me within an hour, furious. She spoke of fairness, of being constantly ignored, and of how letters from older women can be interpreted in different ways. I let her finish. Then I said, "The letter is clear. I'm not arguing over its meaning. I just want the ring." She said I was taking everything personally. She said I was destroying the family over a piece of jewelry. I said, "I'm not overreacting. I'm just not giving up. Those are two different things." Then I hung up. The ring arrived 4 days later in a small, padded envelope on my doorstep. There was no letter inside, just the ring in a small bag. That evening, I sat with my daughter on the sofa and showed her the ring and the letter. I read the relevant passage aloud. She sat perfectly still, listening as she always does to things that are important to her. When I finished, my daughter said, "I have a keen eye." I said, "Absolutely." And she wanted me to have it someday. My daughter held the ring for a moment, turned it over once, and then handed it back to me with a quiet confidence that reminded me so much of my grandmother. "Keep it until I'm ready," she said. Sunday lunches are still suspended. My mother calls occasionally, trying desperately to manage things, and I'm patient with her because she's my mother and because she's genuinely trying. I haven't spoken to Clara since the evening of that call, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. The ring is in my jewelry box on a small velvet tray. My daughter is in 5th grade now, excelling academically, and still pauses at doorways to look around the rooms before entering. She has her great-grandmother's keen eye. The day will come when she'll have the ring to accompany them, because that's what my grandmother wanted, and she was wise enough to write it down. She knew that clarity, offered simply and at the right time, is one of the most valuable things we can leave to those we love.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं कहाँ जाऊं कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू मेरी रूह का मका तू लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर दर्द का असर